Okay, guys, so you've never seen this before. We've got Coach Millie here, Coach Sam, and myself, and this is our first episode of a series that I don't even have a name for yet.
An unnamed project.
Of an unnamed project, right. But what we want to do is we want to get together and talk a little bit about programming, our philosophies around training. Collectively, the three of us have well over 20 years of experience training clients, and but all of us have different backgrounds, different educations, and just different overall experiences with those clients. And so one of the things that we operate under in our gym is we have kind of a few different tracks, one of which is our group CrossFit model, and we're going to talk primarily kind of around that, but really CrossFit is a method that we use. It's not who and what we are. It's just one of the methods that we operate under. Just like we have clients that train for triathlons, and so we operate different methods for their training, or weight loss, or personal training clients that range anywhere from age 13 all the way up to age 80. So, but we're going to talk a little bit about kind of our philosophies around training, and then also kind of how these philosophies maybe relate to what this means for the client and their goals. So, so today, this is our first one, so get prepared for the worst videography and sound probably, but the content will still be great. So, so that's what we're hoping for. But today what we're focusing on, and Millie's got kind of a list of topics we're going to talk about, and she's going to kind of Q&A us a little bit. But the main thing we're talking about, and this came up actually in a coach call we had earlier this week, and I thought it was just a really great time to highlight this because of some of the stuff that we're doing in our group CrossFit programming. But it's understanding the differences between strength cycles and movement focuses, and then a little bit of why we train general movement concepts over specific movements themselves, especially pertaining to our group CrossFit classes. So Millie, kind of take it away a little bit, and Sam and I will just kind of go back and forth a little bit.
Okay. So my first question relating to strength cycles and movement focuses would be, what are strength cycles and why would they be important?
Coach, you want to lead off here?
Yeah, so a strength cycle is a very specific track that an athlete has decided we're going to go in. Typically at this point, we have a date in mind, and this even applies to, like you talked about, our triathlon athletes. That's really not different. A true strength cycle, again, it's a very specific plan aimed at a very specific goal, typically that is bound by a date. I am doing this triathlon on this date. I've decided to sign up for this Olympic weightlifting meet, and I want to commit to it at this level. And what typically will happen is that you get more specific, it is at the expense of other physical traits. So so if I'm going to do a strength cycle, I need to put as much volume and intent as I want towards we'll just call it a back squat. If it's a back squat, then that means that has to come before all your other stuff. So as a result, in order to be able to take the time to train, and even more importantly, take the time to recover, we have to steal a little bit from other physical characteristics.
Yeah.
That we described in the 10 general skills of CrossFit.
Yeah. And I think we're going to kind of dive into that 10 general physical skills in a second, and maybe what the difference is in our CrossFit group component versus a specific training component, right? I think about strength cycles. I think about the stuff that we used to do in whether it was high school or college weightlifting, going through what we would call like periodization type training during our off season or preseason or in-season football training. And the purpose of those cycles was to allow our bodies to peak at certain times, much like Coach is talking about, like there's a date in mind, right? So in college football, we need to be ready to go for camp in August. So what we were doing in December was part of the plan, getting us all the way around to August, and so that was a specific cycle that we were on. One thing that I think is a little misunderstood is when we train strength movements, or with some consistency that we might be on a certain cycle. And Billy, if you don't mind, like I would just ask this question: where would we see, or would we ever see a strength cycle in a CrossFit model?
I think technically at that point you're taking a step off of what would be what would be technically a CrossFit model, but it's not like, oh, we're here and we're here. I'm sure there are ways that you can do it where it's more like, it's just a little bit off the track. So like I said, the biggest deal, I think the most word that you've used as well is specific. The CrossFit model is inherently general.
Yeah.
So that's where we like to go with more like focusing on, building the movement versus like hitting a hard strength cycle where we're taking from other things.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's it.
I think you really hit home on that, because when we do strength cycles are specific movements or a specific goal or whatever else. And we try to explain to clients that work with us in the CrossFit models that we use is that what we are trying to prepare for is these general fitness. And CrossFit defines those among 10 general physical skills. And one of the purposes of that is that you should never be increasing capacity in any one of those skills that would then create detriment in any of the rest of the skills. So like
that's a lack of balance.
Right, yeah. So I would define it as like the decathlete, right?
Yeah,
like,
which is the biggest challenge in programming a true CrossFit model.
Yes.
Is finding that balance.
Yes, for sure. So let's move on. Millie, let's go to our next piece there.
Okay. So what they just discussed was sort of defining strength cycles and how specific those are to a particular goal you may have in mind, and how other things might suffer because of it. But the CrossFit model is more general, which brings me to what our movement focus is. So we talked about strength and the focus of that. So now just movement. What would be the focus of movement in a program?
So it would be it could be any number of steps back from the strength cycle. So let's just say again, we're going to go back to the back squat strength cycle. There are multiple layers that we can pull this back and create, again, the movement focus. It could be just a squat, and we're just going to make sure that we hit a squat pattern every week, but we're going to attack it from multiple different angles. Back squat, front squat, sandbag squat, kettlebell squats, overhead, like all the, it's Forrest Gump now.
Yeah.
There's all the different squats.
Yeah.
So we can attack that same movement pattern from multiple different multiple different styles and loading. So it'd be any number of steps past that. So maybe it is like we're going to focus on, maybe the step back from the back squat specificity becomes other barbell variations, or it just becomes, I try to create, again, I believe the better model and method for balance of the athlete is to attack multiple implements, because all these implements have their different strengths and weaknesses. There's benefits to the balance of the barbell, but there's also detriments of the balance of the barbell in terms of development. Insert the kettlebell that isn't quite as friendly, it isn't quite as agreeable, it forces a more solid pattern. So again, then finding how to mesh these together to create one very complete human being that can squat in any scenario.
Right. Well, and I think that connects us to the whole concept of CrossFit training, which would be constantly varied functional movement performed at a relative high intensity. But one of the things is, one of the other statements within that definition is to increase capacity across broad time and modal domains. And what we mean by that is that it's not just squatting a barbell, it's being able to squat well regardless of the implement.
And regardless of the rep range. Actually, that was a really good one. I missed that. It's not like the one rep max is not the only way to measure strength.
Yeah.
And again, whenever our general goal is capacity, can you maintain your mechanics in 20 reps?
Yeah.
Versus one rep. They're different but same caliber of challenge. Maintaining perfect mechanics at a lighter load for 20 reps, maintaining a mechanics for one rep at a maximal load.
Sure.
There is no, you can't place one above the other. Other whenever our goal is, again, the most complete human being we can manufacture.
That's a good point.
And would you say that when you are creating a program for general fitness, that you're really marrying that movement and strength complexes together for functionality, for longevity?
Yes, it's trying to create a scenario in which development happens in multiple directions, and making sure that we're, too much weight in for when you go too heavy on a workout that's long workout. Well, now you're going to accumulate a lot of subpar reps. It's about avoiding those sorts of pitfalls and setting the general athlete up for success.
Yeah.
That's really the biggest, like, it, obviously we could spend about another 2 hours here, how that happens, but that's like the big general concept on like what am I trying to do, what am I trying to elicit with the programming, and whenever I do choose the movements, like there's movements that are great movements, but they're not necessarily the best if we're gonna do 5 rounds for time.
Yeah,
Or,
good point.
So like that, the sandbag squat, it's really friendly when you're trying to grab and go.
I don't think people realize.
The barbell squat,
Yeah.
not a good grab and go movement.
Well, and then, oh, by the way, like, do I get to use a rack? No, you have to take it from the floor. And that's what people don't realize is
Like a
I think
dead body.
sometimes when we go to program, I thought about this actually, I was looking at some workouts that you published for next week, and I looked at that and I said, oh man, there's some logistical things that need to be incorporated when the coaches go to set up that workout. And I think sometimes as a client base, they may not even realize that like there are logistical things that we think about, and those logistics do change sometimes the intensity of a workout. If you told me, Josh, you got to pick up that dumbbell and hold it in a goblet position and do 20 squats, or you said, Josh, you need to pick up that barbell and do 20 squats with that barbell
Two different
at
scenarios.
95 pounds, I'm going to think about picking up that barbell way longer, which is going to decrease my intensity on the workout, and it's going to change the benefits of that workout. Not that either was good or bad, but it does change what happens.
It's why
in
we're
that
so.
workout.
It's why we are so intent driven.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said. I mean, like for example, we take it back a few weeks. Remember this workout we had? It was low rep. It was toe to bar, box overs, and push press.
Oh yeah.
How do we set up the room? Fly through it.
Yeah. Go through it in
But,
a line.
Whereas if we didn't set up the room like that, that changes. Like
I gotta walk over here. I gotta come back over here.
Programming in a CrossFit model, if you're gonna really try to do it at its best, is not just sets, is not just numbers and exercises. It is what is the full experience of like what is every element of that you're gonna experience in this workout, and then trying to do your best to keep your finger on a pulse of all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, before I get into the next question, how would you respond or speak to maybe a member or an athlete that is like, well, but I really want to do competitions, so how does this general fitness apply to me prepping for a competition? If that's kind of a goal of mine to do all the local ones, like how do I get there?
So, a competition is primarily composed of general fitness. So general fitness works as a excellent base, but where competition programming or sport programming differs from the general fitness is the goal of general fitness to me is to make the most complete human being, allow it to be modify, where you can modify up, down, meet any athlete where they're at. The aim of sport programming is attrition. They're trying to separate people by fitness, which doesn't last for a very long time. There's a reason why these games athletes don't just keep getting fitter and never retire.
Right.
Otherwise, Rich Froning would still be winning because he was already so fit.
Yeah.
There's a reason why guys retire.
Sure.
So again, sport is aimed at attrition. It's designed to knock you out of the game so the fitter person can continue on. So the general program that we run creates an excellent base. And then that's where our accessory programs come in. And then we can be like, all right, so you got this competition coming up. We can work on the skill set of cycling a barbell, cycling a toe to bar or whatever it is. It's just the same as you. You're not getting ready to run routes in December.
Right.
You don't need that right then.
You're getting strong and
You're
powerful, more
exactly.
explosive.
You're building your general base.
So then in
you
July
can
you
apply
go routes. Yeah.
So when you go to competition, it's the same. It becomes the same thing. Like the CrossFit competition is not something that's going to move your fit. The aim is not to move your fitness forward.
Right.
And did you have any?
Well, yeah, and I would add in, because we actually have another topic that'll come up, and we'll talk more about the CrossFit athlete or the CrossFit for sport and the difference between what that is and general fitness training. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, and I think that, like we discussed, a CrossFit athlete, well, now you're training for a sport. So now you're actually training for specificity, and so there is a season to that. And so with seasons then become periodization and cycles and things like that. And so there does become a more specific thing. What I find though, the disconnect is that a novice or intermediate CrossFit athlete that wants to perform these local competitions or whatever else, they believe they need more specific work than what they really do. And really what I've seen the best happen is that when it's only you only need extra work outside of like weak points and things like that in your training. You only really need extra work when you've mastered all the base skills. And I believe that our group CrossFit programming truly does develop the base skills. But as we get into a competitive mode, people feel like they need more just because they need more when they're not actually mastering all the basics, right? And so that's where I think there's a disconnect. Is the competitor thinks they need more than the basics, but I think that they don't realize that if you don't want constant variability, but that's what CrossFit sport is. Because I explained it to an older gentleman of mine, and he's like, "Oh, do you compete in that stuff?" I said, "No, I don't do that anymore." And he's like, "Well, what does that look like?" And I saw one on TV, and so can you do that? I was like, "Well, here's the deal. When you compete in CrossFit, you compete in a sport that when you show up to every event, all the rules change every time." So I said, so it's like you're playing a sport, but every time you showed up on the football field, they changed the rules of football, right? Like it's a very different sport to train for, and how
the general skill of competition at some level is adaptability.
Yes. So
versus just purely a barbell cycling.
Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
Again,
we'll dive into that in
that
another podcast.
brings us to kind of
for
the next question, which we kind of touched on. But what does it mean to train a movement concept versus a specific movement?
I think Coach hit the nail on the head when he was talking about the squat. Yep. I saw this question like, well, he already answered this, and so I would just summarize. No, you're good. It fed right into it, and I would just summarize this in that I think folks don't realize, and this was actually a topic for discussion with our coaching staff, is that some folks don't see a movement as a squat is a squat is a squat. Okay, how we do that, what we squat, what plane of motion we squat in, it is a squat, right? So if we implement a belt squat, if we implement a front squat, a barbell, a back squat, a hack squat, all of those are squats. And so we're training a movement concept there. And all of those squats will also aid into the development of all the other squats, right? So that's where it comes into play. We talk about it with the clean, right? So we're currently focusing a little bit. We'll talk about that in a second. We're focusing on the clean movement. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But when we talk about the clean, well, the movement concept of the clean might be, someone would refer to that potentially as this triple extension or explosive hip extension, or working on a full body action, moving a load from ground to the shoulder, whatnot. Well, we can accomplish that a lot of different ways. So last week we didn't do the cleans. What did we do? We did a hang dumbbell clean, right, in a conditioning setting. So now we talk about capacity work over 1 or 2 rep max work. And so to me, that's kind of how Coach hit on that. Was like, it's movement concepts mean the movement pattern is similar or the same, but the implement in which we use or the mode in which we do it might change. So,
because if you only ever use a barbell,
well, you're not.
You're limiting yourself.
You're not very constantly.
You are not constantly varied.
Right.
If you have 6 implements that you can do a clean on, and the only one you ever do a clean on is a barbell.
Right. Yeah.
And you're just leaving a lot on the table.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yep. So, with all that in mind, what kind of movement focus can we look forward to in the next 6 to 8 weeks in our group classes?
So the movement focus is the barbell clean. You will see a clean pattern most weeks. You will hit a barbell clean in a controlled setting every other week. This is the 18th. We've got cleans in the programming today. This is 2 of 6 sessions I have programmed for a heavy, session 6 being a heavy single. I don't like to just toss in random one rep maxes. Athletes aren't really prepared. We don't really know where to go. So by putting a focus on, we get to be more accurate with our training. We get to learn weak points. We get to learn a little bit, and then our test really means something versus what we were randomly able to pull off.
Correct.
Which I understand unknown and unknowable. That becomes, but
that's
not general. We don't have to only do that.
That also can become frustrating and unsuccessful very quickly.
Yes.
Right.
Correct. Exactly. And that's what I've learned over in the past. Other programming methodologies or other programming concepts that I've either participated in, we've used here, where we get these lists, and like when that becomes the difference between varied and random. But we're varying up what we're doing on the clean, but we have a small semblance of periodization that's going to build on itself. Again, allow our athletes to get more out of it. Like if we're going to do 6 clean sessions, let's get the most out of them. And if we can stack them like this, we get to build on our success from the last one, and we get to continue versus like, oh, we did it here, we do it once a month.
Yeah.
It's much different.
Well, and I think for the more experienced athletes, the random or the every once in a while, if you said, hey Josh, go ahead and, let's clean up to a heavy single today, I'd be like, sweet man, let's do this. Why? Well, because I've been doing it for 20 years.
I was gonna say, how many cleans have you done?
For the person that's been doing it for 20 days,
they're trying to learn.
Yeah, that's gonna be, so I think about this, like how successful will that person be on session 6 of the cleans in this, if you call it a micro cycle or a little mini cycle, if you will.
We're doing cleans.
Right, we're doing cleans, right, a focus, if you will, versus if you just said, hey, today we're doing this. Now, we still may hit someone that's never done it, they show up for the first class, and there's only so much we can do about that.
Yeah, we have people hopping in all the time.
But it also isn't unsuccessful for the more experienced athlete because they've also hit it 6 times too, and so now they even have a better response.
Even you've done it for 20 years, you're still going to be more successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to be a lot sharper, and if nothing else, when we get into test day, you know where to start. You don't waste any energy, you don't waste reps. The number one thing one of the biggest things that inspired me to truly understand, to become more well-versed in understanding programming from all its angles, was just seeing, again, you rep yourself to death on these heavy days because you don't really know where to go.
You're testing the waters on.
You're on a testing day. You want to get it done in as few reps as possible because the reality is everything is focused on one single rep. So we need to have as much gas in the tank for that rep.
Yeah.
Whenever we tested our front squat, what did we do? We did some heavy sandbag squats right before to really prime the system. Most people that day did less than 20 barbell front squats.
Right.
And that has just been far more successful.
And I think taking the time in the programming to think out the long plan to set up clients up for success is important because then that mental game plays a part in it. If you just do heavy cleans and you don't really understand what you're doing, you don't understand the concepts, and then the next day when you see that programmed, you're like, we have to do that again. But that slow progression and multiple modalities helps feed that confidence for that day.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
And then just kind of one more to kind of walk into the middle ground, Coach Allie, when she did the quarterfinals, we hadn't been doing a bunch of barbell cleans, but we had done a bunch of cleans, sandbag cleans, dumbbell cleans, a lot of extension work.
Variations.
What did Allie do? 10 pound
PR.
clean PR that looked much cleaner than anything I've ever seen her lift that heavy.
Yeah. So for the competitor,
so you're not prepared.
Correct. Yeah, for the random, if you will, in that setting, you're still going to have the capacity.
You're still prepared.
To do the things you need.
You still have a level of preparation.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of wrapping this up, how does this focus of the next 6 to 8 weeks in programming help our clients to reach their goals, whether it's a general fitness and function client, the weight loss client, and the strength client? How can we apply that to all of their specific goals?
Yeah, I think I would first say is the reason we kind of give these categories is because most of our clients are here because obviously they enjoy the workouts, they enjoy the community, but they all have their goals, right? I would say we have a decent sized population that really has and this is part of our mission. Our mission is to help people live better lives through better health and fitness. And so I don't care if you can 1 rep max back squat 400 pounds, how does that affect you outside of here? And then how does that affect you in your engagements and your impact on others, right? And so, but a lot of our clients do, we preach it all the time, we want this stuff in here to help you just live a better life outside of here. So that general fitness and just overall general function, hey, I just want to feel better. We hear that a lot when we talk about goals. And then the weight loss client, obviously we have clients that are here that they want to improve how they look in the mirror, what the scale says maybe, where their muscle mass is at, whatever that may be. And then we have clients that, I would say that maybe don't have specific strength goals, but we hear that goal a lot, I just want to be stronger, right?
They want to move the needle.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we came up with these, just kind of the general consensus of kind of if we could group our clients into kind of 3 categories. Coach, is there any one on there that you could say ooh, let me tell you this on this one right away?
Well, the easy one, as we're talking about strength, is strength.
Yeah.
And I think we've pretty well hit it on the head in terms of we create a much more efficient setting to develop these traits and then so outside of everything we've already talked about to explain how we get stronger through all of this, more accurate workouts, better development of the movement pattern, more efficiency, is definitely lost my train of thought here. Man, I promise you it was very, very good.
I'm sure
I know it was solid.
It's gonna be epic.
Yeah.
but here it is. The other piece of the puzzle most people that want to be stronger, they want more muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. With better movement quality, we recruit more muscle fibers. The better you move, your ability to create a hypertrophy effect, the muscle growth effect, goes up tremendously.
Yeah.
Like there are athletes that, and I'm talking like people that train this very, very hard, not like the opposite of general.
Yeah.
There are athletes I can just tell they are a very good mover just by their build, because I can tell like, oh no, when they squat, they are getting everything out of quads, glutes, like the way that they should, because they're maintaining these postures. They train like this, and they train like this consistently. Like there's just something that looks good about good movement.
Right.
So like on top of everything we've already talked about, how this all stacks and accumulates. You know, strength is a volume accumulation game. It's you will recruit more muscle fibers. You will stay healthier, and because you stay healthier, you get to train more. And because you train more, you're going to get to build more muscle and burn more fat and X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. So and I'm gonna piggyback on that. So that's your strength athlete, right? But like something that he just mentioned was recruiting more muscle fibers. But one of the things, the clean would actually be, and any variation of the clean, we talked about this, was like this explosive, full body extension, or this triple extension. With explosive movements like the clean, when we move the body fast, we recruit fast twitch muscle fibers. Well, the reality is, I don't know if you've ever seen a sprinter, okay? But sprinters are built with fast twitch muscle fibers. But sprinters, they're not scrawny, right?
They don't look like runners.
They're built, okay?
They're the only runner
They
that
are
doesn't
built,
look like
and the
that.
reason why is because when you recruit fast twitch muscle fibers, those are the muscle fibers that actually generate size in the muscle. So like when you have a strength athlete wanting to improve strength, well, this was a concept that was shared with me years ago. The bigger the tank, the more gas you can put in it, right? So the bigger the muscle, the more strength I can get out of it, right? The more development I can get out of it, the more power, the more, all of that stuff. So
raise your ceiling.
Yes, exactly. So for the strength athlete, if I'm only doing slow moving exercise and no fast twitch muscle fibers are being recruited through explosive training or power training, then I am missing a major component of development of muscle mass. That being said, if we could just move up the list to the weight loss client, okay, well, one of the things I tell our weight loss clients all the time, and I know our nutrition coaches talk all the time about the way they feed their bodies too, is that the more muscle mass you have, the more caloric burn happens in the body. Muscle just requires more energy to maintain in the body. So the more, again, I train a fast twitch muscle fiber through something like the clean, the dumbbell clean, the double kettlebell clean, whatever it is.
Any lift can be done
Any
explosively.
lift, exactly. But the clean especially has to be done explosively,
the
right?
Olympic lifts are the only ones that have to be done
Yeah.
explosively, but you can get it from any lift.
Yeah, so when we recruit that fast twitch muscle fiber, that helps to maintain or increase muscle mass, while then increasing our metabolic need, okay, we call it our basal metabolic rate, so just what our body needs for calories at rest. Well, guess what? The more muscle mass you have, the harder it is for your body to actually maintain fat. And if you're on the right nutrition plan and the right exercise plan, that can really help with decrease in, or what we could say, an adjustment in body composition. So I don't know if it's weight loss, but fat loss especially, as Coach mentioned.
Yeah, that's probably a good distinction in another podcast. Or
Definitely,
another episode.
yeah. I don't know. Do you want to take the general fitness, or do you want me to? I've got a perfect example of this.
Perfect is definitely. I don't have better than perfect.
So I think that the clean is probably one of the more, outside of the deadlift, which you got to deadlift to clean, obviously, but
hinge is king.
The hinge is king, right? But a close second in functional movement is the clean, because I'm a dad. Millie, she's got two. Sam's got a dog that every once in a while he tries to pick up. And I don't know if you pick up Hyen ever, but the reality is anytime, so often are we picking things up from the ground and bringing them up either to our chest, moving them onto an object. The funniest thing I ever heard was, I have a couple that I've trained for about 15 years now, husband and wife, they're in their 70s, and this was probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I don't even know that I would call what we do CrossFit, but it's a method. It's a way that we train, and so we do some CrossFit-y things.
It is, but it is.
It's just their way.
It is adapted to their needs.
Definitely.
To theirs particular. It's a specific program built for them.
Definitely.
Using the constantly varied model.
Yeah. So that being said, I remember the wife came in. She goes, "You'll never guess. She says, we got a new front door, and we were carrying the door to the dumpster, the old door. And she's like, and you know what we did? We just clean and jerked it right into the dumpster. And I said, and I'm like, that was the best thing you could have ever told me. But I mean, it truly was what they did. They took an object from a lower position and they brought it to their shoulders and then put it overhead. Now, we didn't talk about the jerk today, but it is a very functional movement. If you're picking up kids, if you're carrying things, anytime we're picking things up from the ground, bringing them to our shoulders, our chest, anything, I mean, that's a clean. And so it is, if you want to be more functional and you want to be able to do the day-to-day things much better, it's a multi-joint movement, which is almost everything. Very seldom are we standing around going, here, let me just grab this milk right here, all 10 reps of this today, right? It's a multi-joint movement, it's a full body movement, and it's taking a load from a lower position to a higher position, which I think we do all the time, every day, and don't even think about it.
Yeah, like one of the ways that I look at this in terms of like what I'm doing is that the human body, if you view everything as a tool, then that means that your body is a tool. Tools have their most efficient use. So the most efficient way to move something with the human body is going to have a ton of carryover to any time you try to move something. And there's nothing more functional on earth than moving something from here to there.
Yeah.
Why are we so carry heavy?
Yeah.
Because there is nothing more to the human capacity than the ability to move an external object from one place to another.
Well, I don't have much else to say. I think we covered everything. We hope this helps you guys as you kind of think about, how workouts are programmed, whether you do our programming here or you do it somewhere else.
I hope your gym is programming like this.
We hope your gym is programming, and if they're not, just come on over. We'll take care of you. So what we would say is, this is something that we're going to be doing on a weekly basis and just covering all sorts of topics like this. And if you have more questions around training or around your programming, Coach, where can they find you at?
Online, I only really use Instagram. I don't use Facebook. If you send me a message, I'm probably not going to see it. I'm sorry. It's not like anything. It's not anything personal, but that's just. I can't think of a worse way to contact me than on Facebook Messenger.
For sure.
On Instagram, Schaefer1 is really where that's where you'll find me. And if you got questions, just ask.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, if you're interested in checking out the gym, checking out anything we have to offer, we do a free no sweat intro for anybody that wants to check things out. You can jump on CrossFitMetroEast.com, click free intro or learn more. You can hit us up on social media at CF MetroEast on Instagram. We do actually respond to Facebook messages. I don't personally respond to Facebook messages. I'm about with Sam. I miss those messages on a regular basis, but and they can always email info@crossfit-metroeast.com for more info. Thanks, guys. We look forward to talking to you more about training and programming and everything else. Coach, thank you so much.
Yep.
Coach Millie, thank you as well. We'll see you soon.